get out of my skis.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I know this build-up report has been a long time coming, and I have a lot to talk about, but I'll try and keep it short and not spend too much time talking about any one thing. So yeah, let's get into it. The last time I made one of these, I was in Dobbiaco, Italy, and we were kind of waiting to see how the USBA was going to pick a team for the European champs. Anyway, the USBA kept us in suspense until about the last second before they named the team. But in the end, the results that I had so far in Europe up to that point were good enough, and I was headed to Poland. So after a longish drive, we arrived in Duszniki, and then we had a few days to get ready there before we had the first races at European Champs. So the first race was an individual, another 20K, 4 shootings. Every miss is an extra minute. And then after that, it was going to be a sprint pursuit, and then a mixed relay and a single mixed. But we didn't have enough women with us to have a single mixed, so we just had the mixed relay. Anyway, in that first individual, I made a lot more mistakes on the range than I should have. And even though I had a pretty good race on skis, it didn't end up with a good result because I missed way too many targets. So the sprint race was another story, though. I really pushed it on skis. I had 2 really good laps. They were almost at the same pace as those top guys, not quite at the same speed. But I couldn't really hold it together for the third, which is something that I really need to work on with the summer's training. A higher top speed and being able to hold, basically just getting faster. But I had those 2 good laps and then 1 not so good. But the shooting in the end was really pretty good. I shot 90% in that sprint with just 1 miss standing. So overall, really good race. But just the way the level of competition there was so high, I didn't make the pursuit. There were a lot of guys there who came down from the World Cup, and just the way that it works out with the funding for a lot of those European countries, they need to get medals at this European champs to get funding, so they really send a super strong team to European champs. In the end, in that sprint, I was 64th, about 6 seconds away from making the pursuit. On one hand, I was a little disappointed that I didn't make the pursuit, but looking at the level and looking at where I was last year, this was a huge jump up to being just 7 seconds away from making the pursuit on that level. I was pretty psyched with, honestly. But yeah, the good shooting that I had kind of set me up to race in the relay. So I did have 1 more race in Poland before, I found out if I was going home or not. And yeah, I was the 4th leg in that U.S. mixed relay. So by the time I took over, the field was pretty spread out. There was still places to be won or lost, but you really would have had to go a long way to catch too many spots forward, and you would have really had to screw up pretty bad to drop down. So I didn't have any penalty loops, which is big, even though I did use 4 relay rounds. Could have been better. So in the end, I finished up in the same spot that I had been tagged off into. Didn't lose any spots, didn't gain anything, which, all things considered, I'm pretty happy with because, we potentially could have been lapped if I was too slow and then wouldn't have gotten to finish, or could have lost a few spots because there were quite a few teams still behind us. Anyway, after this race and after European champs in general, there was kind of a bummer of a problem, and that was we had 6 men there, and the next IBU Cup, the U.S. only had 4 start spots for. so we had to send 2 guys home. And, I was a little bit, so I was relieved that I had good enough results in the previous weeks of racing and got to stay there for one more weekend, even though, a few guys had to go home. So after that, we didn't leave Poland until the day after, so I got a chance to hang out with the French team a bit that night, even though most of the U.S. guys were too lame to go out. Anyway, the next day we drove to Orsblee, Slovakia, which is going to be the venue for this year's World Junior Championships. And that last weekend, for us, the IBU Cup that happened was going to be a sprint pursuit combo. And the weather in Orsblee was really warm, and the course had some pretty nice hills, so by the end, it got to be pretty much a sufferfest on those climbs. I really messed up with the shooting in the sprint. I had 4 misses, which is not good enough, but was still fast enough to make the pursuit. Thankfully, there weren't quite as many guys from that high level that were at European champs, so even with that many misses, I finished up 54th. So on Sunday, that was the 5th. Sunday the 5th, I had my last race in Europe on that tour. It was a pretty good one to end on. I skied pretty well. Still not on the same level as those top Russian and German guys, but, I'm getting better, getting a lot closer, and, So for me, it was a solid race. I only missed 3 out of 20 targets, which was, that's pretty solid. 85%, I'm happy with that. Not really happy, but it was a solid race and a solid day on the range for me. So I moved up 10 spots from 54th to 45th. So I guess 9 spots. But so immediately after the race, we packed up and drove from Orsblee to Munich, which was a pretty long ride. Had a couple hours of sleep and then got going to the airport. This is kind of a random thought, but one of my coolest non-racing memories from the trip was actually on that drive from the hotel to the airport in the hotel shuttle. The guy was playing AC/DC on the radio, and I got to sit up in the front actually on a pretty full shuttle, which is kind of cool. But then I got to see the sunrise over the Munich airport, flying through these little streets with AC/DC playing, which is pretty cool. So after talking with the German airport police for a little while about my rifle paperwork, which quickly just turned into kind of a conversation about biathlon races and how stuff was going in the U.S., I got on a plane and flew home. When I got home, I had a really nice 36 hours at home, and then on Tuesday morning, I got in the car and started driving east. I drove through Chicago, then Detroit, and at about 11:30 Tuesday night, I got a flat somewhere in between Detroit and London, Ontario. So I stopped at the gas station, lay down in the back of the car, slept for about 7 or 8 hours, got up, and the gas station attendant told me where the closest shop was that I could get it fixed. So fixing the whole problem, including putting my little spare tire on and driving over to the shop, took about an hour, and then I was back on the road through Toronto, Montreal, and then arriving in Jericho. Got into Jericho about 7 on Wednesday. So this weekend I have a sprint and a pursuit race here, and then next weekend more races in Lake Placid, New York, and depending on how these races go, I could qualify to go back to Europe.
You're doing a blog?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I could qualify to go back for Europe for IBU Cups 7 and 8, but it's going to be some tough races, so yeah. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and see you later.
What are these?